Hello friends, grab yourself a snack and a drink and relax. We're just about to get started. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. Hey, you look nice today. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. Would you like some cat food? No? Why? Let me go put this back. I was just feeding my cat. Zorro! Okay. You know what I didn't do? I didn't tag the Discord either. Sorry, guys. Just give me one quick second. Also, I've never worn this shirt, I don't think. So, welcome to very, very blue shirt Juice City. Blue Short City! Let me grab my stream and post it. So would you guys mind if I reacted to this, like, Corquitzard video? It says that this is not an anti-meat video, and I'm already triggered, so I kind of want to react to it. Would you guys mind? I know you might get offended because I'm a vegan, but I'm already, it's already irritated me, and I kind of want to react to it. This has nothing to do with video games. It's time for Zelda. Stream time. Also, I hope you're enjoying the Mother 3 music. What's up, Eli? How's everyone doing? You got stream going, so you're not going to be around too much tonight, but you'll be in the background. Thank you so much for lurking, buddy. I appreciate that. Today I'm taking revenge against Gibdos. We're also going to try to make it to that second dungeon. I'm just really enjoying exploring around. But I'm glad you're doing great. I'm glad you are. You're going to get your knee checked out? What happened? Did you injure yourself? Did you mention that? I don't remember. I remember you saying something, but I don't think it was that you got injured. Try throwing rocks at the Gibdos. That's true. There weren't any there though when we were trying to push them into the hole yesterday. There weren't any there. Unfortunately, mind you. Okay, so there's this video right here from Corquitzard called "This is not an anti-meat video." I want to react to this really quick before we start playing the game. Is that okay? Would you guys mind? You can walk because you're a mailman, but you gotta do it. I have knee issues too. You know what I think that helps my knee issues, oddly enough, is doing leg press and squats. It's really weird. But it actually... Something about strengthening the muscles around my knee helps me lessen the knee pain I get. Sometimes I'll get up and I'll get like a shocking pain in my knee. Hey, what's going on, AM? How are we doing? Okay. let me see this thing. Okay. Let me go over here. This is an experiment. This is my first time reacting to something on this new channel. I have to like move over here. Okay. Okay. So this has nothing to do with video games. For those of you who don't know, Corquitzard, or however you pronounce this channel, Corquitzard, I think is what it is. GX, Juice GX, I like that new series. They try to do informational videos on YouTube. It's a very, very big channel. They have how many subs? 23.6 million subscribers. This video came out 7 hours ago and it has 400,000 views. Some of the videos they make are hits, some of them are misses, or maybe they're just not that great in general, and some of the stuff that they talk about is just out of my realm of knowledge. But ever since I watched their Don't Work Out video, essentially is what it was, because it's not going to make you lose weight, I don't like this channel anymore. I think Van is working right now. She might be here later, I think is what she said. So, and you guys know, I'm vegan, so immediately this is not going to be up my alley. All right? Because I have some strong moral and ethical beliefs that I think most people agree with. They just don't actually act on them. So, a lot of people will try to grab their cognitive dissonance and throw it to the side, and I think that's what this video is going to essentially be. So I'm just going to react to some things in here. All right, I'm not an expert on every single thing in the world, but I've done a lot of, I've done my due diligence when it comes to this, so. And then we'll get into Zelda. All right. Here we go.
This is not an anti-meat video. We've all heard the arguments against meat, and yet in the EU and US, only between 1 and 6% of people don't eat it.
That's probably an increased percentage than it was, like, over the decades.
Meat is just too tasty, convenient, and ingrained in our culture for most of us to consider giving it up. Also, food is personal, and nobody likes to be morally lectured.
Get over it.
At the same time, we love animals. Most of us have pets and believe in animal rights. Few things make the internet as angry as animal cruelty. Both are true. We love meat and we love animals. Unfortunately, most...
Oh, I'm already triggered. By the way, I've been vegan for almost 5 years, so it's not like I don't understand that the taste of meat is good. I wasn't vegan my entire life. I didn't go vegan because I didn't like the taste of animal flesh. It's just that very argument right there. We love animals, but we also love meat. I mean, just seeing that image of the dude, like, getting angry over animal abuse, usually ones that they are more familiar with or that are pets in this culture, like cats and dogs. For example, in Korea, you had like the dog meat market, and I'm not saying that's good, but when everyone in the U.S. is all enraged about a dog meat market, yet they consume the flesh of pigs, cows, chickens, and the conditions, as you see here, I mean, I know this is a cartoon. Go watch a documentary if you really want to see it. The conditions that the animals live in are absolutely horrible. Then you need to just, like, think for a second. You got to think for just a minute. I think Eli AM, I'm going to respond to this, and I'm sorry if you get offended. You guys are probably going to get offended at what I say today, which is fine, and I hope that you can just rectify it, and then we can move on with the stream after. All right? But it's very, very easy to say, I don't judge people for their personal likings or beliefs, and I believe that people can do whatever they want and eat whatever they want. All right? It's very easy to say that as a human being and not the victim. Not the animal that is sentient and can feel everything that you do to it. Okay? And when we pay for those things to happen to animals so that we can taste their flesh when we don't need to survive and thrive, because we can have a perfectly fine diet and thrive off of it, like myself, for even cheaper or the same amount of money. So it's just a taste thing most of the time. And because it's ingrained in us and that's how we grew up, that is no longer an argument. You can't use that. Or you can use it, but it's just not going to hold any weight. You know what I'm saying? Because when you don't need to, you shouldn't. When I don't need to go like kill my cat for food or something like that, I'm not going to do it. When I don't have to kill another person for food because I'm starving on an island, you don't do it.
Animals we eat live in truly horrible conditions. We don't torture them for fun, but because it makes meat just a little bit more incredibly cheap. If we all paid just a tad more, we could avoid most animal suffering, often just for a few pennies per meal. Disclaimer, farming is complicated. Many farmers are genuinely trying to give their animals the best life.
Shut the fuck up. Stop. Farms are businesses, okay? They're not genuinely trying to give their animals the best life possible. And if they are, they are doing a horrendous job. Oh my god, that is cap. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You can't be serious. First of all, this is not what a farm looks like. This is not what 99% of farms look like. 99% of the food that you eat, the animal flesh that you consume, the meat, comes from factory farming, which is nothing like this. Absolutely nothing like this Minecraft-looking Farmville thing, okay? This doesn't exist. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. Okay, that's a lie. But it's very, very rare, and this is not where people go get their meat. When you go to a grocery store, this is not where your meat comes from. Okay, and even if it was, there's an ethical argument against this, because still these animals' lives are being cut short when they don't have to be. Okay, because you don't need to eat them. You don't. It might be culture, that doesn't mean it's necessary. That doesn't make it right. We have done lots of things in culture in the past that are not ethical, that are not right. Okay? Lots of things. Killing each other. Slavery. All right? R-wording each other. Right? Like, we're not animals. Well, we are animals because we're a human being. But we're humans. We grow past this thing. When people say, oh, we've been doing this thing for so long, so it makes it okay. No, it doesn't. We're human beings and we move past that. All right? We can't simultaneously say, oh, no, we're not animals. We're humans. But then also say, well, we've been doing this for a really long time and we're animals and it's the cycle of life, so we have to do that. No, stop it. Stop. No, dumb. Okay, but also, this claim that if we all paid a few pennies more, this is what farms would look like, is ridiculous. That is so stupid. One, these are businesses. If we give them a few more cents, that just goes to the profits. These companies, or like the animal agricultural industry, is already lobbying for lower prices. They're already like largely subsidized by the government. What is us giving a few more cents going to do to make the living conditions of all of these animals better? Zero. Yeah, Hyper, and you know the thing about this free range and cheap farmed chickens thing? Is that, one, like you said, it's not just a few pennies. Two, it's just a technical term. When they're like, oh, these are these, like, free range or whatever, they have, like, a certain amount of time where they go outside for a little bit. And then they have, like, the cage-free, where instead of staying in cages, they're in these huge enclosures where they're still super close to each other here. It's all just, like, virtue signaling to make you feel better about your purchases, but these chickens are not, like, living... the free range is a little bit more. It's better. It is better. But, like, the cage-free, shut up. That's not doing anything. No, you didn't offend me. I'm apologizing because I feel like I'm going to offend you guys because I am bringing these things up, and people, like, I'm being aggressive because I'm passionate about it, right? But I'm not being aggressive against any individual. I want you guys to know that. Hey, Mitsuki. And yeah, I understand that making life changes is hard, all right? When I was a kid, I couldn't have gone vegan because I'm being fed by my parents, all right? But as an adult who pays for my own bills and knows a thing or two about nutrition, I can do this with ease. I buy my own groceries. Do I view people who eat meat as bad people? Nothing offensive, though. I'm just curious. I think that there are, first of all, from a philosophical standpoint, I don't believe that there are good and bad people. I believe that people exist, and people are in circumstances that they live in. We don't judge people by, like, the base, okay, you're a good person and you're a bad person, at least not in my philosophical view. I think that's silly. I think that people just do good or bad things, and what those good or bad things are completely dependent on, like, the culture that they grow up in. But that, like, generally speaking, we should probably move toward a, how do I say it? Because I don't think objective morality is a thing. But I don't know, maybe this is getting too globalist for people. But oh, hello, Pookie Dorothy. Okay. But no, I don't view you as a bad person because I think that most people are ignorant about these issues in the first place. And, like, for example, I wasn't vegan for the first 24 years of my life. I went vegan, like, after COVID. By the way, COVID was caused by animal farms, as is a lot of the flus, like the Spanish flu and, like, the swine flu and all these other things. What's up, Root Beer Blast? That's all caused by animal farming and mutations and that wouldn't even exist. And I can almost guarantee that the next outbreak of a disease is also going to come from an animal farm. Okay, these things don't need to exist. So, or, like, right now they do, but we can move toward a future in which they don't, rather, is what I'm saying. But I think that if you are an adult who knows what happens in these farms, who understands ethically that there is no reason to harm sentient life, and even plant life, more plant life dies to feed animals than to feed us, and I mean by a large margin. It is extremely inefficient. So if you care about plant life too, and you want to bring that argument and not just sentient life, then you're an adult who can make their own decisions and understand, oh, I can go to the grocery store, I can get these, like, beans and rice and even these faux meats if I want to, because it's very easy to get those now, even though they're, like, as expensive as meat, maybe a little bit more expensive than meat now. You can get that if you want. You don't need it. Tofu's there. You can learn how to cook a little bit. You should learn how to cook as an adult. You have all these options for yourself. Most food is vegan. It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't. But when you actually think about it, you have eggs, you have cow milk, and you have meat. Those are the things that aren't vegan. Everything else is vegan. Everything else you see. It is, exactly, Hyper. Yeah, and I was in the same place. Eating just whatever my parents would give to me. It's not like I didn't like the taste of it, but as I grew into my adult milk, well, okay, cow milk, goat milk, essentially, but speaking on, like, the things that most people consume, I'll say cow milk, even though the dairy industry is on the decline because of all of the plant-based milks, like oat milk and almond milk and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I'm speaking on this from not an environmentalist standpoint, though there are a lot of environmental benefits to being vegan because obviously these animals, especially cows, contribute to a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere. Methane and CO2, but methane is the primary one that you want to be worried about when it comes to them, I believe. I'm mostly talking about an ethical standpoint. Because it all goes down the line, right? It's a from the customer to the grocery store to the butcher shop to the farms to the government subsidies where that money could be placed into plants, etc. It comes down to personal decision when you're an adult. So I believe that if you're an adult and you know all of this and you're just not making the change because it's convenient or something, and you're looking the other way, I think that is the morally wrong thing to do. I think there are a lot of like good and bad decisions that you can make as an adult or as a kid that could be good or bad. And that's one of them. That's one that could make up your total, however people want to judge you. Okay. It's one that I'm passionate about and that frustrates me when people look the other way. Yeah. But she still consumes fish meat? Well, that's not vegan then. 'Cause vegan, and also people who are like vegan, but it's only for like the health reasons and not for the ethical reasons, you're on a plant-based diet or you're not vegan. They most likely will like switch to something else. Yeah, I guess that's a very roundabout way of answering the question. I think but I don't think in such like black and white answers. And I also, hey, welcome Ace. I also don't, we're only a minute into this 15-minute video. That's crazy. I also think that like culture and religion and stuff like that, like, is there a religion where you like have to eat meat or something? One, I'm agnostic, just so to make it clear. I don't believe that there's like a god there, but there could be a god. I'm either way. I just don't live my life. And this isn't like I'm trying not to offend, do whatever you want to do with religion. Give me 1 second. I'll answer these questions after I'm done. But yeah, so I just don't live my life as if there is a god, but if you do, that's fine. I just try to focus on the life that we're given here, and I don't want to follow any of those rules because to me, I feel like while a lot of the morals I have gotten in the West come from like Christianity and stuff like that, you can evolve past that to a degree, right? Even in the Bible, it's like, don't eat animals if you don't have to. Essentially what it was saying in some of the passages, right? But it's unnecessary. But we're at the point where now it's unnecessary, at least in the US here. And if you're an adult who can pay for your own groceries. So if you are Christian, then keep that in mind. But in Islam forces you to eat meat. That's weird. I don't think I like that at all. But also I don't, okay. I'm of the belief that you should live life based off of the life that you're given. And I mean, that's the purpose I give myself. And I try to provide like a fulfilling life to the people around me, because that's all that's guaranteed. Okay. That is my belief. You can have another belief, but I think it's kind of strange to like, or how do I say this? I don't think that the lives of other beings, when you really think about it, do you really think that the lives of other beings can like, or do you think that religion is a good excuse to kill other sentient beings who don't need to be killed? Ask yourself that question. Right? Do you think that does that make sense? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it makes it okay, personally. I mean, look, I grew up Catholic. I grew up in Catholicism. I literally played as Jesus Christ twice in the Stations of the Cross. But I was very skeptical throughout it all. I got to the point where I got confirmed. I was like, okay, I'm good with this. I don't have to do this anymore. Essentially, I was like doing it for my grandmother. Essentially, what it was. But I just didn't believe in a lot of what the Catholic Church says. I know that there are many sects of the Christian religion, but Yeah. But I'm just saying, even like in the Bible, it's like, don't eat animals if you don't have to, right? You should probably not do that. But hold on. What are we talking about? Ace, we're not even in the game yet. I saw this Quarkwitsart video called "This is not an anti-meat video," and I instantly got triggered. So like, I wanted to react to this thing, and I'm just talking about this as we go, and then we'll hop into the game. I love how we're already half an hour into the stream and only 1 minute into this video. Do you have any advice on how a picky person can be vegan? Of course I do. Are you in the Discord? Because I can totally... Anything that you like that's a meal, I could probably, with a few substitutes, make it vegan. And in fact, the recipes probably already exist online. But yeah. Absolutely. Basically, I would say that, like... I'm a guy that likes to go into things kind of like, I have the information. If I can identify with something because this matches my ethical framework, being vegan, not unnecessarily killing animals, fits my personal ethical framework, and I think it fits a lot of people's ethical framework, then I'm just going to do that. If I identify with something, bam, I'm there, okay? But if you want to go into it like with baby steps, then what I would do is take some of the meals that you really like or snacks that you really like and find vegan versions of them. You can look up recipes. You can cook with your parents, maybe, if you have a good relationship with them. You can, when you're at the grocery store, be like, hey, can I try this thing instead? And then over time be like, ooh, can I try this thing instead? And then kind of replace those things and then understand what those pieces of vegetables are good for, or this starch is good for, this protein is good for. How, and like different ways of cooking them that you personally like. You got to experiment a little bit. Kids are used to, typically speaking, their parents are just cooking them things. But maybe bring up, hey, could you try this? But if you're in the Discord and put your favorite things down and then see if you can find vegan versions of them. Okay.
Possible, but they're trapped in a complex system with extreme market pressure to keep prices low. No two countries have the same standards, no two farms are equal, and solid data is often scarce. We've done our best to combine data from different regions and the prices you pay in the end. To keep things simple, we're going to classify farming practices into 3 broad groups: decent, prisons, and torture camps. This is a bit sketchy, and you've probably seen many more categories in the supermarket, like organic or grass.
Approved by chicken. Yeah, right.
So, fellow omnivores...
I hate this. I hate that, like, you have these labels on things. Obviously, approved by chickens is comical. But, like... Oh, I hate the virtual signaling stuff. I really don't like it. First of all, this entire thing assumes that these companies aren't just going to pocket the extra money, which is what businesses do most of the time, okay? It's typically what they do. When you have these huge businesses like this that lobby, that do marketing campaigns, that lie about their food, lie about the fact that, let's see, what's the #1 killer in the world? What is it? Heart disease, right? Where does that come from? What's one of the biggest reasons for that? Is it too much dietary cholesterol and saturated fat? Or is that a myth? No, it's not a fucking myth, okay? No, that leads to worse heart outcomes. That kills a lot of people. And obesity doesn't help, okay? Obesity is up there too. You're eating a lot of the super processed carbs with all the burgers and everything like... No, none of that is good. You should focus on a healthy diet, of course. But red meat, carcinogen? Nah, forget about it. Don't put that on labels, right? Just like the cigarette companies. It's all lobbying. One thing I think we could agree on is that I wish there was a more comprehensive nutritional education. Absolutely. 100%. Because then people wouldn't feel so scared about going into a vegan diet or something like that. But most people are literally eating like pizza and McDonald's. And like, you know. Thank you so much for subscribing to Starlight Voyagers Official. I think you and I would probably agree on a lot of stuff. It just comes down to the action. I think a lot of us can agree on a lot of stuff. It just comes down to the action. I'm just saying it. I'm just here. Here's the information. What you do with it, you know?
What would it cost us to avoid animal torture and still have our fried chicken?
You can't. You can't, like... You can't feed a large number of people without factory farms, especially with the population growing. In a way that's going to be sustainable at all. Especially in a way that's not going to be extremely expensive. And also, taking away the lives of sentient creatures because you like the taste of their flesh when you have a million other options just because it's what you grew up with or because it tastes good is not a reason. It's not a justifiable reason. I have water. Thank you. You can't. Even if there was a way, even if there was somehow a way, you can't. Because you can't kill something prematurely, compassionately. Okay? This is an oxymoron. We can't do this. If you go up to your friend and you're like, hey, you know what? I love you, but I kind of want to eat you, so I'm going to kill you. If you did that to your cat, if you did that to a friend, if you did that to a chicken that was your friend, it's not gonna work. We just look the other way because it's what we're used to. See this little frowny face on the C? That's how I'm feeling right now. That's how that chicken feels with the fact that we're talking about the fact that we think that we can even do this in the first place, even if there was a way. Yeah, this is a reaction, Gabriel. Yeah, I mean, it's not supposed to be, but I'm looking at it as a frown. It's just the art style.
Chickens. At any given time, there are about 26 billion chickens alive on Earth, as many as all other birds combined. Chickens see
because we
dumb,
farm them to do so.
Social, can communicate, solve problems, and feel empathy. And yet,
oh, Pokemon reference.
Communicate, solve problems,
Torchics,
and feel empathy. And yet, we keep the vast majority in insane torture. Let's start with eggs. Worldwide, about 90% of laying hens live in torture camps.
Worldwide, 90%.
Where they can barely move. They're unable to show any natural chicken behavior like nesting, roosting, foraging, or pecking at the ground, so they become extremely frustrated and end up hurting each other badly. To stop this, many farms clip their beaks. In the US and Europe, legal bans and consumer initiatives have improved the situation a lot in the last few years. But still, more than 50% of hens remain in cages. The insane thing is that this doesn't even save a lot of money.
And the other 90% that don't aren't living the best life either. They're in just giant enclosures.
Cost to free the hens. The main alternative to cages are barn systems. Hens are still kept indoors, but have twice as much space and roam freely. Barns are prisons. Still not amazing, but so much better. In the EU, barns increase the consumer price by about 2 cents per egg. The somewhat decent alternative is free range, where hens are allowed outdoors, often with proper access to vegetation. In the
For an
EU,
hour.
This increases the price by about 7 cents per egg. Housing aside, one of the cruelest practices
Of course they do.
is chick culling.
Yep, here we go.
Don't lay eggs, so they're killed right after birth.
Usually by gassing or grinding. Fucking I can't. Like, you gotta understand. we can't be doing this shit because we like the taste of the fucking animal. Right? This is cartoons. Go watch an actual documentary. I mean, based off of the logic alone, I can make my decision, but a lot of people need to, like, actually see it. A lot of people do. You know? This seems like it would be like some dystopian crazy-ass thing, but this shit is happening. This shit is real. Okay? This is the reality of the situation. Like, wake up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That can be an issue.
This is a really
now, I mean,
used for
an issue if we decide we want to keep eating them, which we don't have to.
And even
but it is still a better alternative.
Chickens are killed this way each year.
7 billion baby chickens.
So many breeding eggs.
Oh, but I mean, not to get religious here, not to get political and controversial, but do I want to bring up like the pro-choice versus pro-life argument? Okay, when we kill 7 million billion chickens when they're babies every single year, that are sentient creatures. By the way, I think we should reduce the most amount of harm to all living creatures on Earth. All right? On this damn planet. I'm just not discriminating. I don't care if it's a bug or a blade of grass, a chicken or a human. I feel like as a society, as a species, we have the responsibility of reducing that amount of harm. Do we want to live on a good planet that we all can enjoy to the best of ability? We're never going to be able to completely eliminate suffering, completely eliminate death, right? I mean, maybe, I don't know. What the hell? But we should probably aim for a pretty cool society. We should probably aim not to kill 78 billion or whatever the hell they said baby chickens every single year, right? We should probably aim not to do that, and the best way to do that is probably to make some personal choices in our lives that are I'm sorry, are kind of easy once you're an adult. They are. It's not more expensive. It isn't. Unless you live like in a food desert or something like that. But you can go to the grocery store, you can get a big bag of rice, beans, these are potatoes, these are the cheapest foods. Tofu.
Scanned early, and only female birds hatch, which may have increased costs by only 2 to 5 cents per egg. So if you pay 85 cents more for a dozen eggs, you can make a difference between serious chicken torture and pretty decent chicken lives. And for another 60
pretty
cents,
decent. It's not. They don't stay outside all day, man.
Chicken meat is a different story. Most meat chickens today are genetic freaks.
Yes.
Reach amazing weights,
which is not good for them, and then their bones crack. Internal organs, yeah.
Stress, and they can't even walk properly
right.
because of their weight, which causes them a lot of pain for much of their lives.
Yeah, fucking awesome. I'm sorry for swearing so much and being this way.
Far less. A serving of chicken breast that you buy at $1.50 would become 9 cents more expensive in the US. 90% of meat chickens in the EU live in prisons or torture camps. They're kept indoors in extremely crowded conditions with sometimes dozens of birds per square meter.
How are they calculating this, I wonder? Because, like, one, we see that this isn't the case already, because the companies themselves are raising the prices to ridiculous degrees, because they know that if you feel a little bit better about that price, you'll pay upwards of like $3-4 extra if you have the money to do it. Okay. But two, are they basing this off of the fact that not all, or like most and 90% of the fact that chickens come from these torture chambers and not from free range? So not free, but free range. Right? How are they calculating this? 9 cents. You know what I'm saying? Like, the amount of space that you would need is completely unsustainable.
Often in the dark and with poor ventilation. So what if we moved them all to prisons?
Tofu does taste great.
A new study found that giving them
plenty of different ways to cook it.
Daylight would increase the price by another 13 cents per serving. Probably less than 5% of meat chickens live free range in relatively decent conditions. This meat is actually noticeably more expensive, double the price of regular chicken. But chicken is the cheapest meat. So depending on the cut, you'd pay 35 cents to €1 or $1 more for a serving of chicken that had a decent life. Pigs. Pigs are basically dogs.
I was watching a documentary called Dominion, and yeah, organic can mean a lot of different things, I believe. I don't know. Food labels are bullshit. I'm sorry. A lot of the times they are. You should go watch the documentary Seaspiracy on Netflix. Go watch it. Seaspiracy. Did he just say basically dogs? Yes. Yes, he did. And pigs are very intelligent. In fact, I think an adult pig is as smart as a 3-year-old child. But yeah, but intelligence also doesn't dictate like the value of life, right? We don't do this. We don't like kill human babies or something, or because they're not as smart and decide to eat them or whatever. It's just, we don't do that. I mean, some people do, right? Some people think that's a justification, but when you actually like look at it logically, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah. Anyway, I was watching this documentary called Dominion, and I could literally only get, because I never needed to see what actually happens in these places to go vegan. All I needed was the, oh, we don't have to eat them? We don't have to kill them? Oh. Okay. Let's not. Cool. Yeah. But I watched this documentary, and I only got through the pig section, and I was like devastated. I was devastated. I'll go back to watch the other sections, but I have to do it section by section.
They're as intelligent, social and playful as our wolf buddies and make lovable pets. So pigs really feel how they live and arguably have it the worst of all animals we eat. Probably more than 90% of all pigs live in torture camps. They spend their entire lives indoors in extremely crowded spaces on concrete floors without straw or bedding. Since this is far from what they need, they get frustrated and often fight.
They also live in their own shit, get bacterial infections, die, the babies die right there.
Often without pain relief to save time. Mothers are kept in crates, extremely tight metal straitjackets where they
and the workers, literally the workers who work in these places they get so mentally messed up a lot of the time. And they get desensitized to this stuff. There's a lot of animal abuse. You'll see these guys kicking the pigs, kicking the animals around, like shocking them for way too long, missing when they're shooting them in the head with the bolt thing, and then doing it another. It's ridiculous. Lowering them into the gas I mean, it is. I'm sorry for making the stream about this. I thought that this would go by quicker. I want to get into Zelda and get to this dungeon. But I am...
This leads to extreme suffering for the mother and...
See, the thing is, you might get offended, but I think somewhere deep inside you probably agree. Right? I think a lot of people get offended, or they start to feel defensive around things because we build our lives in a certain way. And a lot of people get, even when I like say I'm vegan, or people, or like I order something that's vegan off the menu, and then they ask about it, and then like they'll make fun of it for a little bit, or a discussion has to be about the fact that I'm vegan. It usually comes from someone else and not from me. You have a lot of misconceptions about like vegans being pretentious and all this stuff. People say this because they feel insecure, because I think a lot of people think that they know that what they're doing isn't right. And so they'll say, oh, vegans just think they're better than everyone else. No. Sure, this is one moral thing that we do that is probably better, but this is not the case. It's because you feel attacked. Let's be real. It's because you feel attacked that you have to defend yourself. That is why this happens.
Which are held in a barren area, separated by metal bars, and taken away at just 3 weeks old.
Yeah, I'm sure the mothers love that.
Like that. First, let's get to the prison level.
Yo,
Getting
bicep
praise
curls?
would raise the cost of a €2 serving of pork by about 20 cents. Anesthesia for castration costs almost nothing, around 1 cent per kilogram of meat.
Okay, think about the time it would take the workers to do this. That adds money as well. Because now all of a sudden these things happening is less efficient, blah, 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 and all this stuff. I don't know how they're calculating this.
Found that giving pigs more straw and bedding material and 30% more space and other things that are more animal-friendly would increase the price per serving by another 20 cents. This is still an awful life for an animal this intelligent, but obviously much better, for 40 cents more per serving. Going one level further and giving pigs outdoor access for at least 40% of their lives and 300 to 400% more space indoors would increase the price per serving by another 80 cents. Just over 1% of pigs in the EU live in these or similar conditions. We can't know if this is really okay for such a smart and social animal, but it starts resembling something decent. And all for about $1.2 or euros more per serving of pig. Cows. Cows raised for meat have it the best because they usually spend about...
That's the thing that's the most irritating. Being vegan doesn't automatically make you a better person than someone who eat meat. Many vegans think that, and it's really that's a misconception. Many vegans do not think that being vegan automatically makes you better, but many vegans do know that this is the morally right thing to do. Right? This is one thing that vegans will do over someone who isn't vegan. And most people will probably agree with that. Right? We can sit here and we can probably agree that what I'm saying, can you guys agree that what I'm saying makes sense? Could you agree that this is the ethically preferable way of life if you can live that way? Right? If you're an adult who can make your own decisions, would you say that this is the ethically preferred way? To reduce the amount of suffering for sentient animals. If you can agree with that, if you can agree with that, then you can see. And I think the reason why people think that vegans are pretentious or think that they're better than other people is because, one, they're defensive, right? And two, there are a lot of misconceptions spread on the internet. There's a lot of hate for vegans on the internet. They'll see like the vegan teacher or something saying something about racism and comparing it to like veganism. And honestly, the baseline of what they're saying is probably like fine, but then they just go way above and beyond it. Then everyone's like, oh, that's what vegans are like. I hate vegans, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to eat 17 pounds of meat now. Like, this is a real thing that happens. It's just a misconception. I'm sure some do. Sure, there are some people out there, exactly as Hyper said, that think just because you are this thing, it just straight up makes you better, right? But I think we can mostly agree that this is the ethically preferable thing to do, and that, like, for example, like, I think that this is the ethically preferable thing to do, so in this way, I am, like, doing something better. But that's just one way. I'm not a morally perfect person, okay? I've done wrong in my life. I've lied. All right, I've cheated. I've yelled when I don't need to. Like, I'm not a morally perfect person. Being vegan on its own does not make you like. There's no such thing as a good or a bad person. They're just good and bad actions. Is how I see it. Okay. Do not like.
2/3 of their lives outdoors, making their lives pretty good. If they were in the wild, it'd be basically the same thing, but less safe. Their lives are far from perfect though, especially at the end. The vast majority of cows spend the last months of their short lives in feedlots, either prisons or torture camps, where they're fattened to reach their slaughter weight as fast as possible. Probably less than 5% of beef cattle in the US have lifelong access to outdoor pasture. And yet, a recent German study found that it only increases the price of beef by around 15%. The life quality of cows varies widely.
You're still
even
killing them
within
at 2 years old.
regions, depending on the available land.
Think about how
harvest,
expensive it would be to
farming
actually let them all live their
So
lives.
It's really impossible to make more easy and cheap suggestions to make their lives better. Dairy cows do have it much worse.
And also how much,
They're often kept
like,
indoors
room it
most
would
of the
take
year
for all of
and
this.
suffer pain, sole ulcers, and lesions from standing on concrete. But once again, none of these things seem to be needed to have affordable milk. In Germany, outdoor pasture...
By the way, the only reason why the veal industry exists is because of the dairy industry. Because the babies are I mean, you know, you have to artificially inseminate the cows all the time, so they're constantly producing the milk. You take the babies away from them. If they're boys, they get killed as babies, and if they're girls, they'll, you know, become other dairy cows. It's a vicious system.
increases the price of the milk by about 10 cents per litre. We could go on with many other animals and farming practices, but the summary is clear. For the animals we eat the most, upgrading their living conditions from outright torture to somewhat decent may cost you about 15% more for beef and milk, 50% for eggs and pork, and 100% for chicken meat. The meat of the issue. Opinion part. Meat has gotten so cheap that we have to torture animals to keep the prices insanely low. This really is all there is to it. Food in developed countries is the cheapest it's been in history. In the
Fred.
US, the largest meat consumer in the world, an average person spends $337 a month on food, $88 on meat, eggs and dairy. If these became an average 50% more expensive, that would increase the monthly expenditure on food by about $43. This may sound like a lot, but relative to income, this only means paying as much for food as US consumers did in 1987. In Germany, the average person spends about €70 a month on meat, eggs and dairy. If we increased prices by 50% on average to make the lives of these animals better in a really meaningful way, this would rise by about €35 to about €100. If this still sounds too expensive, it may be because around 20% of all meat people buy is simply thrown away. Meat got so cheap that we often don't eat it before it goes bad. It's no longer valuable. Okay, so if you go shopping, what can you do? It can feel like you can't do anything as an individual consumer, but this is not true. The market follows demand. So
Exactly.
if you want to buy torture meat, look at the labels on holding conditions. If there is none, it is torture meat for sure.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, it's complicated. It's often unclear what different labels mean, if they're strictly enforced or legally binding. Some are great, others whitewashing. And we haven't talked
Most
about
are
the most expensive
whitewashing.
meat so far, organic meat. You've probably noticed that many price estimates we've given here don't quite match your experience in the supermarket. This is
Right.
in part because some retailers consider ethical products luxury goods and charge an even higher
Right.
price. And also
This is what
because
businesses will
like
do.
Organic, natural, ecological, bio, or the worst of all, biodynamic, often contain a lot of extras or pseudoscience that have nothing to do with animal welfare. Many, but not all of these labels include some of the best practices mentioned before, but not necessarily all. Organic brands often include, for a lack of a better word, stupid measures, like forbidding GMO feed. As we covered in another video,
Yeah, GMOs are fine.
doesn't do anything good for you or the animals. It just makes your food more expensive and seem more natural.
Opinion
while
piece.
you are consuming unnatural animal breeds, living a deeply unnatural life. Unfortunately, the label situation in many countries is extremely confusing, often on purpose. All too often, we don't know what we're really buying. So, grudgingly, if you can afford it and want
Look,
at least a high chance of talking...
At the end of the day, businesses are businesses, and they're going to know that if they're if you got some virtue signaling stuff going on right here with these labels. One, the prices themselves saying, oh, this study says they'll raise them by 10%. You're not talking about it on the mass scale if that entire country did that, okay? I really don't think so. Think about the amount of space that would take and energy. That doesn't make any sense to me, okay? Two, the businesses themselves are going to be the ones that are doing exactly what they're doing now and saying that, okay, let's raise this product by $3, $4, $5 or whatever for this label that makes it, oh, maybe it's a little bit more ethically good. Just just don't fucking buy it. Just stop. Right? Like, if you're really worried about the ethics of it,
Torture-free meat, go for the label. If you can afford it, buy organic. If you can afford it and have time, research local farms and get your meat from a place you've seen yourself. There's one exception, too good not to mention. Mussels. They
Mussels.
suck up carbon and filter water, making coastlines cleaner. Calling mussels dumb is giving them too much credit. With no central nervous system and probably no thoughts or pain, they're basically moss. Really, everyone
Hey,
should eat
Supersonic.
more mussels. Okay, let's wrap up. You don't need to be vegan to think the current situation is unacceptable. The conditions of most animals we eat are hard to stomach and could all be avoided if we paid as much for meat as our parents did. Things are slowly getting better, at least in the West. Consumers can push the industry in the right direction if we bite the bullet and pay more. If you can't afford this, maybe eat a bit less meat. Don't throw meat away. Maybe avoid the worst torture meat like pork, at least sometimes. And push for legislation that bans the most horrific practices. We can help make the lives of billions of animals.
I don't know why YouTube deleted your live. Oh, another Pokemon reference.
Help make the
Wait, Peppa Pig,
lives of billions
Miltank?
of animals dramatically better. It really is that simple. You can only advocate for better policies if you have enough reliable information.
Sponsorship. Okay, video game time. If you care about the ethics, I mean, obviously, yeah, there can be better conditions. What this is, the businesses are going to upcharge this anyway. Even if technically the prices are completely right and you only pay 100% more for this or 50% more for this or 15% more for that, the companies themselves, the businesses themselves are the ones who are going to upcharge this, okay? It's going to be that way for a very long time. If you are actually concerned about the ethics, just don't buy it based off of the arguments that I've given you. All right. Wait, the stream went down? Wait, what? Hello? It says I'm live. Oh.